What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be doing something different but also something the same. I'm going to be doing a copper layered knife. I've been doing a lot of those lately, but this time I'm going to be doing something a little different, and that is I'm going to be doing a hollow grind, also known as an S grind. And if I'm getting too confused, let me know in the comments down below, because I don't really know the terminology behind this. But I'm doing a double copper line because I want to see how it reacts with the hollow grind once I get it ground in. And I'm also hoping that it gives it a cool look to it, but we won't know until we get there. So a quick background run on what I'm doing here is I'm pressing it with my hydraulic press, and I put it into my heat treating oven, which goes up to 2000 degrees, which is not enough to forge weld, but for bracing it is perfect. I get the billet up to about 1970 and I do my initial weld, then I bring it down to 1950 and I work it from there. Once it gets too big for the oven, since the oven is rather small on the inside, I go to my forge, and as you can see I'm working much lower temperatures, and that is because it is very easy to melt the steel in the forge. So because of that, I like to work it at a slightly lower temperature where I can manage it more easily and lower the risk of the copper melting out. So I didn't show this in the video, but I did go back and forge it thinner. It was about 3/16 thick, I want to say, a little bit under a quarter, and I worked it down a little bit more, down to an eighth, because it was just too thick to be able to properly work with. Because these knives have copper in them, I can't really forge them. I have to cut them out. I know a lot of people don't like that, but that's just a process that has to be done. If not, I run the risk of delaminating the whole thing. And as you can see, I'm actually cutting out two knives. One of them I'm just doing on the side with the extra steel that I had left over. But we're going to primarily work on this one right here, which is an 8-inch chef's knife. Alright guys, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Anson Belt and Buckle. So as you know, they sponsored me about a month ago, and since then I've been using their belts pretty much daily. And I must say, here, sliding mine up, I must say these things are amazing. Ever since I started using this belt, I have not switched back to my old one, and that is because these belts offer a very comfortable fit that I just can't get with my other belt. And the reason for that is because of the micro adjustable ratchet that these belts have. It gives it pretty much adjustability every quarter of an inch versus traditional belts that give you pretty much an inch in between each hole. And over time they wear out. So far I've been using this guy for a month straight, whether I'm here in the shop or I'm out doing work or I'm out doing whatever. I use these belts and they're amazing. They give great comfort, and with the holiday season coming up, you definitely should go check them out. And since Anson Belt and Buckle has sponsored this video, go check out the link in the description down below, or also in the pinned comment down below, or you can click this QR code that I'm going to be putting right around here somewhere and go build your own set where you'll get an extra 2 pieces, an extra belt and an extra buckle for free. That's 3 belts and 3 straps, where you can have a total of 9 different combinations to wear for whatever occasion you got going on. And that's an exclusive deal you can only get in the QR code right here or in the description down below. So make sure to go check them out, build your set, and upgrade your belt game today. So a big thank you to Anson Belt and Buckle for sponsoring this video. And honestly guys, I really like the belts, and I'm going to be ordering some myself so I can give out as gifts to my family. So definitely go check them out, and let's get back to the build. Quick note about the sponsors. I do get a lot of sponsor requests and I reject most of them because they don't really fit either my personality or what I believe would be appropriate to show on a knife making YouTube page. So I really choose what I want to work with, what I feel that would be beneficial to, you know, maybe one of my audience. And personally, I chose this belt company because I really like their belts. Like I've always wanted one of these ratcheting ones like these. I think they're super cool. So that's pretty much why I don't have sponsors often, but when I do, trust me, I check them out very, very closely before I decide to take on the sponsorship. All in all, I'm just trying to say I really do like the product. I'm not just putting it in front of you so you can, spend money on it. And believe me, Temu hits me up every freaking week. And I don't even have that app on my own phone, so I would definitely not recommend it to other people if I don't use it myself or am unwilling to use it. So just food for thought in case anybody was wondering about that. And a quick question for any of my knife maker viewers: do you guys run into the issue where the binds a little bit on softer steel knives like these that have the copper in them? I feel like the copper kind of gums it up and pulls it, makes it kind of get stuck a little bit more often, because on average on the steel knives that I do that are solid steel or Damascus, it rarely happens. But it might just be the fact that I'm just holding it by hand and don't have it really clamped up. It could be the material, or it could just be user error. Who knows? Alright guys, so we got our knife out of the quench. I haven't tempered it yet, but I'm about to put it into temper. Before that, I'm going to start tracing it out and getting my handle scales ready. Now, the reason why I'm doing that right now is that I'm going to have a couple hours where I really have nothing to do. So I'm going to go on ahead and start prepping the handle scales. That way I can finish them off while this guy is tempering, just to save some time. So these handles were sent to me by my buddy Mike from Alchua Farms. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not sure. I never pronounce it correctly. But there's a link in my description if you want to check out the products he carries. He does all kinds of handle material and stuff. So if you want to check him out, feel free to. Link in the description of the video. And we're going to start prepping these guys up. And one thing I like about these guys, they have some copper powder in there. So they're going to have hints of copper popping out through. Wow. That will match up pretty nicely with this knife. This knife is still pretty heavy, but once we get all that grinding in there, I'm pretty sure it'll lighten up quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get started on these handles. Also, a huge shout out to Mike. He really helps me out a lot with sending me these handle materials. It saves me a lot of money, and it gives me really cool material to work with, like this material I'm using right here that is specifically made with copper in it for the copper knives that I make. And though in all honesty resin is a bit of a pain to grind, it definitely left a very beautiful looking handle at the end of it, especially with all the little copper specks that are inside the actual resin material. Also, a quick question for any of my regular viewers that watch all my videos: do I sound monotone in these things? Because I always, I edit my videos and I go over them and I do pretty much everything. I can't stand hearing myself talk, but I know that's just a regular thing. Most people don't like to hear themselves talk. And I know I'm going to get comments who are like, oh yeah, I don't like to hear you talk either. Shut up, I'm not asking you. If you like my voice, I'm asking if I sound monotone, because I'm not sure. I kind of feel like I sound monotone, but I don't know. Maybe I should start trying to do a radio voice or a, TV anchor voice or something. Though in all honesty, I have no idea how they do those voices. So with the handle cut out, all I have to do is clean up the front part of the handle material, because once I glue that up, I won't be able to touch it again. So I have to hand sand it up to about 800 grit. Alright guys, so we are out of the temperature. The knife is looking pretty nice. I'm gonna go on ahead and put it through the surface grinder again, get it nice and clean, and then we'll start working on our bevels. I'm also working on that guy on the side. I don't know if I'll finish it at the same time I finish this guy, but this guy is my priority. It's a big beefy chef's knife, very, very nice and comfy. One thing I am worried about is that my coarse steel might not be exactly centered in some areas. You can't really tell. You can kind of see the lines going through there. But normally whenever I do a layered construction with a coarse steel, my coarse steel is at least a third of the billet. And in this case, it was slightly under a third, which if I don't press it exactly correctly could cause the core to go to one side or the other, or maybe even just snake. And then once I do my final grind, I have copper crossover. I'm pretty sure I won't run into that this time. There is a very, very fine line where I could have an error, but I'm gonna baby it and try to take care of it as best I can. The knife came out pretty nice and straight. Nothing that can't be fixed on the grinder. And overall, I'm very happy with it. It's still pretty beefy, but I do want some of that weight on the handle so it can balance out. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the way it's going. So we're gonna go ahead and get into our final grind and get our bevels going. Here I'm using the surface grinder attachment with a 120 grit belt, and all I'm doing is cleaning up the surface. I've been thinking about getting some of that no scale stuff. I think Pop's Knife Supply sells it, and using that on my knives. That way they don't build up any scale when I do heat treatment. Let me know in the comments down below if you use that stuff and if it's worth it. But here I'm just cleaning off with the surface grinder attachment. Then I'm going in so I can grind in my bevels. One thing about the way I do this is specifically on these knives is that I'm not actually marking a center line for these knives. I'm just grinding it and exposing the copper layers that are in there. And once I have my copper layers pretty much set center, then I will check to make sure that both sides are even. If one side has a little bit more material than the other, then I'll grind that whole side down a little bit. That way I can adjust the knife to my core steel versus trying to adjust the core steel to the knife, because then I get very uneven sides, and then I have my copper lines going really high, and on the other side I have them really low close to the edge. And I try to keep them pretty much as even as I can. Obviously there's only so much you can do, but as long as the core steel is exposed, we are good. And always remember to knock down all the rough edges that you have on the knife. That way it is very comfortable for whoever is going to be using it. Alright guys, so this is where we're at right now. I have it pretty much ground down as far as I want it. It's at a rough 220 grit. It is still pretty hefty, and that is because it is a pretty thick knife. I didn't want to grind too much off of it because then I'm going to lose the top layer. So I ended up having it pretty thick, and that's even though I pressed it almost to an eighth. It's just slightly over an eighth right now at the spine, but a lot of the weight is in the handle as well. So I think I'm gonna end up removing some extra weight here in the handle as well, just to help it lighten it up a bit. One quick thing I want to talk about though is I'm gonna do an S grind on this guy. So I'm gonna be using this plant right here to do the S grind. I've attached it to my 2x72 here through the back, and I've already gone on ahead and did that. And unfortunately, I don't have an arm for it yet, so I had to take apart my flat platen and install this one. But this is what I'm going to use to do the S grind on the knife, and hopefully that will help out with the food release. So this was sent to me by RD Knives on Instagram. I'll have a link to his Instagram and his webpage down below if you want to get one yourself. I'm going to give it a try and see how I like it. In all honesty, I've never done a S grind, so I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to do it right or how it's going to come out, but that's the fun part. We're going to go ahead and learn. And I will be ordering an entire arm. That way I don't have to be switching it back and forth in the future. He also carries carbide platens, such as this one right here. And I'm going to be switching to this one once I'm done with this guy. I'll be switching over to this one, and I'll get back to you guys in a future video to see how much I'm liking this carbide. One of the reasons why I decided to go with the carbide is because of its harder wear layer, so it won't wear out as fast as the softer steel ones that come with the 2x72. I'm not sure what steel it is. It is a tougher steel, but it's definitely not going to touch carbide. So I'm definitely going to be switching over to that. Here I'm using a black marker just to cover up my handle, and
Once I have it all covered, I'm going to go back with some scribes that I don't use, or calipers that I don't use, and I'm just marking in a line all the way around. That way I have a rough idea where I want my grind to end. And those lines are a suggestion, they're not the end all be all. I just don't really want to cross farther than that, because then I'll be grinding a little bit too close to the portion that's going to end up just being the edge. Though I will admit, it does help out the knife a lot to do these hollow grinds, but it is an absolute pain. I think I'm going to have to figure out how to do it on a rest, because the knife catches a lot when you're trying to do it by hand. And obviously that has nothing to do with the actual tool. The tool worked great, it just has a bit of a learning curve. Once I have all that ground, I like to go in with my wheel and just blend in all the lines as much as I can. And the reasoning behind that is it helps me get a nice clean hand sand, and probably knocks a few hours off the hand sanding process, if I'm being honest. Also, I'm using my small wheel attachment just to make some notches in there. It's not supposed to be used for that, but I use it for that. It works.
Alright guys, so I'm here at one of the many desks you guys never see, and I have a mess. Nonetheless, I need to do my hand sanding, but to do my hand sanding, I need to make a hand sanding jig, I guess, or whatever it's called, where I can put my sandpaper, but it has to have that bit of a curve. So what I've done is I've taken this piece of scrap wood and I've gone on ahead and I've drawn on that curve. I'm not sure if you can see. And so I will be taking that and I will be grinding up to that line all the way through. And then the top I will be cutting so that I can hold it properly. If I'm not happy with the way it comes out, I might slap a piece of micarta on top just to add some more height to it. But other than that, I think that's plenty deep. I don't think I'll ever grind that deep. And on top of that, I am considering putting some leather on it too, just to add a little bit of cushion. That way I can make sure I have full contact whenever I'm hand sanding. So that's pretty much the plan for this guy. I'm going ahead and start working on it. Then I got it all planned out and hopefully it works out. And if not, then I'll just make another one until I figure it out.
Here I'm using my 2x72 and I'm just grinding in that little slight curve that I have on the wood. That's going to serve as my jig for whenever I do my hand sand. And a quick note on that, it does look like I'm burning the wood, and that's because I am. The belt is kind of used up. Afterwards I switched to a brand new belt. It goes right through it like nothing. And though I didn't record it, I did put on the leather and it worked spectacularly. So this will be a new tool in my arsenal. So it is time for the glue up. As always, I'm using G-Flex. It is some very, very strong stuff. It does have a long cure time, about 7 to 10 hours, but trust me, it's definitely worth it, especially if you have the time for it. It's definitely the best stuff you can use for gluing up these handles. And also, I'd like to ask you guys, if you like these videos and you like to support my channel, you can do so by checking if you are subscribed. If you're not subscribed, definitely go click that subscribe button and like the video. If you like the video, it's right there. Might as well do it. And if you want to help my channel in a monetary fashion, you can check out my Patreon, where I do nothing on, I'll be honest with you. If you want to help support me on there, you can do that. And you can check out my website in the description as well. And you can buy this knife or any other knife that I have there for sale. And that is a very good way where you can help support me in my work and help support the channel, and also get a cool knife to use in your kitchen. Especially this guy, which is already up for sale as soon as this video comes out. So if you want to go pick this guy up, definitely go check out the link for my web store in the description down below. So as I had previously said, this material is very dusty, so definitely wear your proper PPE whenever you are grinding and sanding. This stuff is very toxic, but also very beautiful. And here's a quick trick I like to use. I like to hit it with the orbital sander with higher grits and round over all those hard to reach places where it's hard on the 2x72.
Here I got the knife. It hasn't been etched yet, so we're gonna go on ahead and do our paper test. All right, so a lot of you guys told me in the comments that you wanted me to use a tomato that I didn't do the tomato test, so I brought a tomato. But first things first, I'm gonna do potato because I did an S grind on this guy, and I'm really curious to see how well that S grind works with food release. All right, so I'm just gonna start by cutting. I'm just gonna cut it in. Oh, okay. Cut it in half. Release pretty nicely. Cut it in half again. There's no resistance whatsoever. Oh, we still got food stick. All right, so we do still got some food stick. I'm not sure if I didn't do my grind deep enough or what it was, but I'm still have a little bit of food stick. But then I'll take into account it is a potato, and potatoes are known for their food stick. So oh man, this thing just glides through the food though. There's like zero resistance. I was told to use the back of my knife to scrape stuff. I will say that I'm still getting food stick, but the cut is a lot nicer. There's like zero resistance, and that's probably due to the air gap versus a knife that's completely ground flat. You're always gonna have that food kind of like hitting it. And also on the top, when I ground it, I kind of ground a little bit of an angle. Not too much, it's barely noticeable, but just a little bit, just to help with it making sure it wouldn't wedge. And one other thing I was told on the last one was that there was a little bit of wedging whenever I cut my potato. There's like no wedging now. There's like zero wedging. Just kind of pushes the food out a little bit. It's interesting. All right, guys, so we have our tomato. You can go ahead and just give a nice quick, oh man. So satisfying. There we go. There we go. Alrighty. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and dice this guy up. I'm gonna cut it in half. One thing they say about a sharp knife with tomatoes is it'll cut it, it won't squish it. So this one's making very easy work. Overall, it's a sweet knife. So we're gonna go on ahead and move on to our etching.
So now we move on to the etching process. This knife is very simple. It's just going to be a very dark color with the contrast of the copper. Overall, I like the bold and simple color contrast that the coffee gives it. And overall, I'm very happy with it. Again, I have that little bit of that copper haze in there. And I think I'm going to start talking with a few people and seeing what they do to get rid of that. But all in all, I think this knife came out great. I love the contrast. I love how the handle matches everything else. And overall, I really enjoyed the cutting performance. I'm definitely going to be doing more hollow grinds in the future. But as always, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.